Staying with news further afield, we're actually going to get some analysis on what's transpired. Thembisa Fakude, Senior Research Fellow at Afrasid, joins us now via video link to weigh in on the UN Security Council resolution for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, of course, referring to one of our earlier stories. Thembisa, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us here on the SABC at this hour. Right, so we're obviously just looking at that resolution that was passed yesterday by the UN Security Council. Yesterday, just after 4 o'clock, we saw that 14 world leaders having voted on that UN Security Council resolution that had been put forth by Mozambique. We're obviously looking at the implications from here and too, because we've seen some world reactions coming through demanding that Gaza ceasefire. Many of the world's officials obviously embracing that. Some questioning whether it is a little bit too late at this point. But let's continue with our analysis. I believe Thembisa is in fact ready and able to join at this hour. So good afternoon and thank you for joining us here on the SABC. Let's get your reaction then on the back of that Security Council resolution demanding that Gaza ceasefire and the implications from here and too. Is it a little bit too late?
I think it is too late, and of course the greatest concern at the moment is whether Israel will be able to implement the resolution. We know that Israel has been is not known for listening to UN resolutions, nor anyone for that matter, at least at this point in time. So they've already said that they're not going to listen to anyone. They're going to go ahead and finish their business in Gaza by moving into Rafah, notwithstanding the challenges that have been raised by everybody else, given the current humanitarian challenges in that place.
Thank you for those sentiments, because I also wanted to look at the role of the United States having abstained from the vote on Monday. The US said that it didn't agree with it in its entirety in relation to calls for an immediate ceasefire for the duration of the month of Ramadan. What is this indicative of as well? And also, what's it reflecting at this juncture of what's transpired? Okay, Thembisa, I'm just going to repose that question. If you can hear me.
Well, it also reflects that the relationship between Israel and US is quite strained. The fact that US, for the first time...
Do continue.
Well, for the first time, the US decided to abstain. Usually it vetoes anything that's got to do with Israel. So this time around reflects a sense of disagreement between Israel and the US. And of course, one hopes that with US not happy with Israel at the moment, that will put pressure on Israel to accept the ceasefire. Regarding this ceasefire, which is in the middle of Ramadan, I think for many people would have expected that this would have happened 15 days ago. We're on the 15th night of Ramadan, and only now this is happening. So we'll have to wait and see whether Israel is going to implement. And if it does implement, how soon will they leave Gaza, and how soon Hamas will release the hostages that are still held in their different caves and places. By the way, not only Hamas, different factions in Palestine have got their own hostages that they are holding.
On the back of the question about whether Israel will be able to implement, the question about how strong is the international community to oblige Israel to also implement this resolution coming to the fore. Talk to us a little bit more about that, the dynamics unfolding on that front. And obviously also just shortly after the resolution had been passed, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu cancelled the visit of an Israeli delegation to Washington. Let's look into that also a little bit more.
Yeah, well, the pressure is quite huge on Israel to ceasefire, not understanding what Benjamin Netanyahu said, by the way, for his own benefit, because he knows that there's got a lot of problems that he's facing, including the court case that's ongoing in Israel. So he does drop the current onslaught on the Gazans. He's likely to, one, there's going to be a call for elections, and if he loses those elections, he's likely to face his own colleges, which many people believe might just end up in jail. So he has to prolong and kick the can down the road as long as possible. Now, regarding whether the other international community will put pressure or continue to put pressure on Israel. We'll have to wait and see. But they have not been doing so ever since, particularly countries such as Germany and Britain. They've all shown support of Israel, notwithstanding the global condemnation of what's been happening there. So it's interesting times now, of course, that United States is facing elections, and they've decided that they're going to go ahead with this, again, simply because Joe Biden sees the signs on the wall that many Americans are anti this war, and they will, if it comes to a push come November, they will have to punish him at the polls.
We are struggling a little bit with the connection. I'm going to just look at the next question and see if it improves. On the back of what you've echoed, I want to look at the move by Israeli Minister Gideon Sa'ar while resigning. His party now leaving Netanyahu's led emergency government. Talk to us about what's happening internally as well as the clock ticks. Netanyahu as well, his reign, his leadership, the internal Israeli politics, and even the stability of the government at this moment.
Yeah, well, I do apologize for the poor connection. I'm in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think what you see happening at the moment is that you're going to see polarization within the political elite of Israel, because all of them, of course, have got ambitions of becoming prime minister. And I think these are the signs, as we see these resignations, these are the signs of the senior leadership abandoning Benjamin Netanyahu, notwithstanding that all of them were part and parcel of this problem. So you're going to have them now, positioning themselves for the big job. And this is what exactly is happening at the moment. This resignation, I don't think this is going to be the last one. We're likely to see more resignation as many of them are becoming more ambitious and occupying the top position of prime ministership.
There's obviously been reactions from Israel as well, apart from the Prime Minister cancelling the visit of that Israeli delegation. The Israeli ambassador to the UN, Gilad Erdan, also saying that the resolution failed to demand a ceasefire without conditioning it on the release of captives in Gaza, saying that it undermines the efforts to secure release of hostages. Talk to us a little bit more about, their version of events at this juncture.
Well, that was the biggest bone of contention with the first resolution that was sponsored by the Americans. It was regarded by many within the UN Security Council as being one-sided and biased in favor of Israel, because it did not mention, for example, that Israel must ceasefire and Israel was in the wrong. Instead, it concentrated mainly on Hamas. So with this resolution, it's seen as much more balanced, and hopefully, when it is eventually implemented, it's going to bring everyone together. But I think within Israel, it's going to remain very, very divisive, because Israelis are quite divided in this regard. By the way, it doesn't mean that because we see a number of people on the streets of Israel calling for the release of hostages, they are necessarily calling for a ceasefire. Most of them are not really calling for the ceasefire, but are more interested in calling for the release of hostages and the resignation of Benjamin Netanyahu.
We are obviously watching with bated breath. The clock is ticking, and we're really trying to understand the dynamics from here on too. But I'm going to leave the conversation there for now. Thank you for joining us and for weighing in. Thembisa Fakude, Senior Research Fellow at Afrasid, looking at the developments. We know the latest emerging since yesterday, UN Security Council resolution passed for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza.